do your due diligence, right? And part of that due diligence in an ecosystem like Workday is making sure that the potential partner has the skills that you require. As I said, Workday is a very complicated ecosystem, so you need to be sure that there's the appropriate depth on the bench for HR and payroll and finance and procurement, whatever you're deploying within Workday. So be sure that your partner has those capabilities on the bench and can assist you as you require and expect.
Hello, friends. I'm Jeff Miller from ERPA, and you're listening to The Possibility Perspective, the show where we talk to strategic-minded Workday customers who partner with ERPA for a better Workday experience. What if you could not only implement a new business technology, but transform your entire organization's approach to HR, payroll, and finance with one well-managed system? Well, today we're diving deep into the remarkable journey of Avēsis and how they have successfully leveraged ERPA to elevate their business operations with Workday. Joining us are Ronda-Rhea Nueske, Vice President of Talent Management, and Steve Gearhart, Chief Technology Officer at Avēsis, a leading provider of dental and vision insurance. In this episode, Ronda-Rhea and Steve share their experiences since implementing Workday for HR and finance. They detail the benefits of united systems and strong partnerships, and how these have led to significant cost and time savings. They also highlight the importance of relationships and collaboration, especially when dealing with technical issues. You won't want to miss it. Let's dive in. So, Steve, let's start with you. Tell us a little bit about yourself and the company you work for.
Sure. My name is Steve Gearhart. I'm the Chief Technology Officer at Avēsis. I've been with Avēsis for about 3 years as the Chief Technology Officer. Prior to that, I was CIO of a global manufacturing company for about 10 years. I joined in a part-time basis back in 2021, thinking I was just going to be on board for a few months. And here I am 3 years later, still supporting the organization.
That's awesome. And tell us a little bit about what Avēsis does.
Avēsis is a dental and vision insurance provider, catering a lot to the government side of the business, Medicaid, Medicare members. So that's really our sweet spot.
Ronda-Rhea, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? And if you wouldn't mind, tell us how many employees currently are at Avēsis.
My name's Ronda-Rhea Nueske. I'm the Vice President of Talent Management here at Avēsis. I've been with the company a little over 2.5 years, coming up on 3 like Steve is. Currently, we have 768 employees, including our contingent staff, 564 temporary and 114 contingent staff.
Very good. Well, welcome to the show, and thank you both for joining today. This is going to be great. I'm looking forward to this conversation. Let's start with Workday, if we can, please. I've got a few Workday questions for you. So, Steve, first of all, to you, if you wouldn't mind, tell us a little bit about your Workday journey. What led you to realize that you needed a change that eventually resulted in you going to Workday?
Yeah, so as I said, when I first came on, I thought I was just going to be here for a couple months. We are in the process of moving away from our parent company, divesting from Guardian Life Insurance. So 3 years ago, when I was asked to provide some assistance, we were looking at how we would replace every single system that Guardian had on the Avēsis side of the house. So one of the first applications or areas that we focused in on was HR. Guardian, our parent company, was using Workday, and we did a quick assessment of what our options might be, but we were all pretty comfortable with Workday. I've deployed Workday at 2 other companies prior to Avēsis, so I was very comfortable with Workday. So that's really how we made our initial foray into Workday for Avēsis, was one, from the Guardian experience and the fact that they were using Workday HR already, and the fact that several companies have implemented at several companies. So it was a logical decision to make on the HR side.
And then describe your journey specifically related to when did you go live with Workday? It was a bit of a iterative process, right? You didn't go full suite all at the same time.
We pretty much did with HR, and much to Ronda-Rhea's dismay, I was pretty instrumental in defining the business processes because we had no HR team. This was before Ronda-Rhea was on board. We had no HR team. the technical guy, Steve Gearhart, became the HR business process owner. And we went live in about 3.5 months from the time we decided we were going to go with Workday HR till full go live in January of 22 was about 3.5 months. So very rapid deployment, leveraging best practices of Workday, right? We told our implementation partner at the time, tell us how you think it should be done. That's how we'll do it. And that's what we deployed. And that's why we were able to do it so fast. We didn't have a lot of people contributing their ideas about how the HR process should work. As I said, Ronda-Rhea probably wishes we had done some things differently at the time, but we asked our implementation partner, tell us what best in class looks like. We want to be right in the middle of the bell curve. And that's what we deployed. We were able to do so pretty rapidly.
We deployed the different aspects, the recruiting we had on board, the HCM fundamentals we did. Then later on, we added performance, we added learning and development, and those came later to us.
And then after your initial implementation, was it about a year before you went live with Workday Financial Management? Is that right?
Yeah, right about a year after. We went live with Workday HR January of 2022. And we had a new consultant working as not a CFO. We had a CFO, but we had some outside help from the equity group, the private equity group, coming in to give us some guidance. And that individual on the finance side asked us, what are you going to do for finance? We've got to do a similar thing with finance. Again, I had used Workday Finance previously, so I told this gentleman that I think Workday Finance can do everything we need to do in the finance space. We looked at a couple other options. We demoed Workday Finance for him, and he saw intrinsic capabilities and said, yeah, there's nothing that we do that Workday can't do. So we made that decision around about February, I would think, of 22, and started down the path of deploying Workday Finance, and actually went live with that at the first of the year of 23.
Very good. Very helpful context for your Workday journey. And then, Ronda-Rhea, what are some significant benefits that Avēsis has enjoyed with Workday?
I think the unity, we have everything on one system. We've got, payroll, we've got finance. It makes it easier. It's less confusing for the staff. They don't have 5 systems that they need to log into to file their reimbursements. They don't have to apply internally over here. Their benefits are here. They can see everything in one login. So the single sign-on helps there, and they have everything centrally located. For us in HR, it's wonderful because we don't have to have an applicant tracking system separately from an HR system and things of that nature. Our timekeeping system is in there. It's all cohesive in it, and we really enjoy the benefits of that as to our staff.
Steve, how about you? Anything to add?
Well, I think Ronda-Rhea hit the nail on the head, right? It's all inclusive. You've got finance and procurement and HR in one system. It makes life easier for everybody. When data flows seamlessly through those groups, it makes life very efficient.
It's everything. We enter a person, we move them straight from applicant over to a new hire. They go from new hire. That's where their access is granted. Their benefits flow. It's just a seamless process.
And then finally, a strategy question related to Workday, Steve. Where do technologies like Workday play a role in your overall strategy to stay competitive in today's market?
What I found in my career working with software as a service companies like Workday, Salesforce, is they are always pushing the envelope and adding capabilities and functionality to keep them competitive, right? So they've got companies like Workday have a large pool of customers with very demanding requirements. And Workday does a very good job of keeping up with those requirements and coming out with incremental functionality enhancements over time, first and foremost. Second, it's a proven platform, right? I first deployed Workday probably 20 years ago. I think I was customer 42 in that initial deployment. So very early on, we've seen Workday progress, right? From their founding, based on the leadership of the I think that was PeopleSoft guys, and Neil leading the technology front with Workday. But all in all, they're a SaaS provider that supports thousands and thousands of customers. And to do so, you have to be competitive and continue to provide the additional functionality that businesses need as they evolve over time.
And they're very responsive. I mean, when you put in, there's community, so everybody can get on community and look for answers and support each other so that if Workday doesn't have a set solution right now, you can find out how other communities or other members of the community are using it. Additionally, Workday is fairly responsive to that community. So if there isn't, that's the incremental changes that they made. Their updates and new releases are pretty spot on for responsiveness.
So shifting now from Workday to ERPA, a Workday services partner, and Steve, I'll pitch this question over to you. What was Avēsis' journey to becoming an ERPA customer, or how did you hear about ERPA? Why did you choose us as a partner?
Well, again, we're transitioning away from Guardian back in 2022. And what that means is essentially there were zero HR staff. There were zero staff to support applications like Workday. So we knew that we were going to have to go outside and find external resources to help us. And why we thought that is this is a complicated system. Workday is an ecosystem that has HR, payroll, finance, procurement. It's a pretty complicated space. And if you were to go outside and try to find one or two resources that had capability in those areas, you're talking a lot of money for those individuals. So as we were deploying, we were having discussions with our implementation partner, and we asked them, hey, who are you partnered with, or who have you seen other companies partner with that have been successful in the ongoing support? So we had an implementation partner that did all the initial configuration, but we knew that once we went live, we would need that ongoing support from an external party. And they recommended ERPA. And we took a look at them and were very satisfied with their overall capability to support that broad spectrum of technologies that is the Workday stack. And we could leverage a company like ERPA for a whole lot less money than going out and hiring 4 or 5 people to support the individual areas that we've been talking about.
Very good. Very helpful. So Ronda-Rhea, in layman's terms, what would you say ERPA does for Avēsis?
It helps us to survive and function at our most optimal levels. ERPA allows us to pivot when we need to. They provide us the services that we need to get the functionality out of the system that we so desperately need on a daily basis. We don't have an on-site administrator currently. And so while we're working to obtain one, we have staff that's training. We can always rely on our folks at ERPA to guide us, to lead us, to give us best practice, to come up with solutions, anything that we need to get the solutions we need for the functionality that we absolutely have to have. It's crucial.
And a lot of that really requires a level of Workday expertise in the ERPA team. Ronda-Rhea, if you wouldn't mind, talk a little bit about that Workday expertise at ERPA that you've witnessed and what it means to you.
Well, I love, ERPA, you throw in a ticket, not that we don't have personal relationships with Tim and others there, but you can throw in a ticket and it's parsed out to whoever is the reigning expert on that. So, for example, Steve works with John in the fin section, but John can also jump over and help us if something intersects. Likewise, when we have a recruiting question, Dana comes on. There are different specialists in every different facet, and even within one thing. So recruiting could be one thing, but maybe somebody understands the email aspects of that better than another person. And so the team really works well. The other thing I like is they're always first and foremost to sit in there and apologize. Like, I'm going to be out of class. I need to apologize. I'm so sorry. No, thank you for continuing your education so that you can provide us the best service you can. So we've noticed throughout the course of our time here, 2.5 years, that staff is continuously training to maintain the level of expertise that they need in any of the new releases as well as what they currently support.
Very, very helpful. Appreciate all of those comments. And you and I, Ronda-Rhea, we've talked about Studio a little bit. I'm less familiar with it. If you wouldn't mind, share with our audience a little bit about Studio, what it is, and how you and ERPA use Studio.
Now that we have jumped in and we're becoming more familiar with our system, there are certain functionalities that we seek. And what one of them is a report. It's not a report writer, but it's a field screen thing. And it's to collect data for different things, a questionnaire, so to speak. And that was a functionality that was through Studio that they could just slap on and then functionally make it more whatever we need. But it gives them the framework. And they've used Studio for us in the HR section quite a few times where they can go out, find an already built set of tools, and then figure out how to personalize them for the Avēsis ask that we have. So it shortens the time that we have, but it's also a standardization of a request that we have. Very I know good. That Steve's been using it too a little bit.
He stays away from Studio. Yeah, that's right. Steve, question for you. One of the few areas that ERPA prides itself on related to service is having a proactive approach to service delivery. Are there examples of ERPA's proactive approach that you can cite?
Yeah, I'll give you a good example. In my case, last summer, I was approached to look into the procurement capabilities of Avēsis. Again, we had nobody that was doing procurement. We had a couple people in the AP department, accounts payable department, and nobody doing anything with respect to procurement. We hadn't issued a purchase order since we went live in January 23. So I immediately reached out to ERPA. I said, hey, I need to talk to somebody that's got some experience in the procurement space. And they turned me on to a resource there that I've been working with for about a year now. And I asked them, I said, hey, look, I want to implement procurement capabilities at Avēsis, and I need you to tell me what you think is best in class in terms of Workday, what Workday can do in terms of procurement. And my resource at ERP put a nice strategy deck together for me and said, these are the 20 things that I think constitutes best in class. And we've been executing against that strategy document for the past year. Continuously, as we're talking with Ronda-Rhea and the HR team and her management of contingent resources, there's opportunities and overlap, right, with procurement and how you manage those contingent resources. And this resource is very good at coming to us with options. We don't follow every one of them, but we always listen, right, because they have incredible knowledge about how Workday can work for us. And they've always been, my resources at ERP have always been very good at reaching out to us if they see there's additional opportunities that we should be thinking about.
The other thing I'm going to add on for Steve is that he's been working the procurement side. And like I said, John is really good with procurement, does a lot of the functionality that we need there. But they're also good at acknowledging their limitations and their scope and their knowledge. So it's not unusual for him to reach out to the HR side and say, hey, can you go look and see how this intersects and make sure that it's going to be fine and that we're not going to blow up something that you need. And they're really good about going back and forth between the two sides or three sides or four sides of the house. They all know their limitations and they don't cowboy out there and try and say, oh, this is going to fix everything. They're very cognizant of the fact that it is a very complex system and everything overlaps everything.
Exactly.
Really, really helpful. Ronda-Rhea, if we could continue with you for a moment. So that was the proactive approach. If we could now turn our attention to the relational approach to service delivery. Relationships are so important in a partnership. Could you speak to that importance in regard to your relationship with ERPA? And then in addition to that, why is it important to have named resources in your partnership?
There's a lot of tense stuff that happens in human resources, in IT, in finance, and you need to have that relationship so that they can see you at your worst and your best, but they know that you're going to have bad days, but they understand it's not a personal thing. It's just you need an answer. I love the fact that when we have a crisis, we had another one yesterday, we needed urgent response. I don't have to just submit a ticket and wait. I can call John. I can call Dana. I can call Tim and say, oh my God, we know this. And as you build those relationships, they also get to know you. They know what your capabilities are, and they don't have to be hesitant about, well, maybe perhaps you might want to think about this. Hey, look, you're doing this wrong. You need to do this better, and here's how you can do it better. And they know our personalities on the team. Occasionally we have some feet draggers that need a little poking. And so Tim might reach out and go, "Oi, Rhonda, can you go, pull so-and-so because she's not responding back?" And they're really good too about the ebb and flow of our schedules. There's days when in HR, we're screening, we have a new class coming up. We have 28 hires for it, and we're screening 70 people a week per person. And so when we do that, they know that they're not going to hear from us for a while. And they're okay with that because they'll just ping us and touch us every once in a while and make sure that we're okay. And it's a really comfortable place to be. It's not a hard, "Hey, you guys need to get an answer to us, and why aren't you giving us the time?" But they're also respectful back. And having that named resource is key because, like I said, that's your linchpin, that's your person. I know Steve has developed several good relationships with his team, as have we, and they're not stuck on who they're reporting to or who they're going to. They'll deal with my entire team. So if some of my team have questions, they'll specifically ping my team, and they know that they've got the approval to go ahead and do that, and they work with them great. It makes it comfortable. It makes it successful. My team doesn't have to worry about asking questions. There's just a real good give and take between both sides of the house.
Steve, anything to add to that?
Yeah, I would second that, right? Obviously I've been in industry for a long time, right? And I know that consulting companies like ERPA, there are hundreds of them, right? And what's most important about companies like ERPA are the people. And the people drive the relationships. I second Ronda-Rhea's comments about John. I didn't want to use his name, but John's my guy on the procurement side. And just today, right, I'm training somebody else to come into the procurement space. And I had a question, and I know I can text John and he's going to respond like right away. And exactly what I thought. He responded back to me with an answer to my question. And you're not going to get that unless you have those relationships, right? Similarly, John reaches out to me, right? He's got something that I need to look at. I'm going to jump at it, right? And those are all very valuable things that can't be measured all the time, but it's clearly of extreme value.
It's so true that, that consulting companies are a dime a dozen to a degree, and you're always looking for that differentiation, right? What's going to make one better and more desirable to work with when you have to work so closely with a partner. And the people factor is one that's just so hard to measure. It's so hard to communicate, and yet it's so incredibly important that you get the people factor right when choosing a partner like you guys have. So really, really happy that you found ERPA and we found you. So love that.
Well, we've done a lot of work on culture. It's been one of the things that's tried to drive us. It's one of the cornerstones of who we are as an HR department, who we're trying to be as a company. And so it's nice to be able to drive the culture of our relationships with our vendors. And in this case, ERPA does get our culture, and they're very communicative and open. And it's a strange thing to think that they're not an Avēsis employee a lot of times because we're working so integrally with them. So it's kind of fun to say, "Oh yeah, they're an ERPA staffer, not an Avēsis staffer," because they're knee deep in the projects with us as well.
Love that. Steve, if you didn't have ERPA, are there costs or time investments that you would have to make? Or maybe if I can shift the question in a different way, can you identify any cost savings or time savings you enjoy as a result of your partnership with ERPA?
Yeah, I think I alluded to some of this earlier, right? When I said if we were to go out and find resources to keep Workday humming and running the way it should, and having the ability to direct us strategically in how we should take the tool set, we'd have a staff of 10 people, full-time staff. And I can tell you, because I write the purchase orders, being the purchasing guy, I write the purchase orders for ERPA. That is far cheaper than what it would cost us to have 10 people on staff.
He's not wrong, because I do the HR side of it, and I'm the one that has to go source those people. I know how much they run, and Steve's absolutely right. We have a crackerjack crew of staff at ERPA that provides everything that we need in a far more economical sense than we could provide it in staff in-house.
And it's a flexible model, right? So every year we get together as a team and talk about, what sort of time do we think we're going to need for the next 12 months, right? And, where do we need help? Where have we finished off some of our projects? Like in the procurement space, a lot of what John initially laid out for us as a strategy, we've implemented. So over the next year, I would expect that we'd use less of John's time, and we would probably use more in the payroll space, just as an example, for next year. So we talk about, budget planning and that sort of thing. Again, much easier to do with a model where I can roll some of John's time off if I don't need him, and we can ramp somebody on with different capabilities if we need them for an extended period of time or even a short period of time. It's a much more viable model from a cost perspective.
Well, and even when we were rolling out Fin last year, we knew that we have a number of hours. We can always add if we need to, but we have a set of hours. Fin was using more, HR wasn't using as many. That's fine. We split the hours, but we gave them ours. The other thing that we've really started utilizing as we become more situated in how we're using the system is there's some knowledge transfer that needs to happen. There's a lot of learning, and we can use our hours like that. And the team is really good about, we have a set list of tickets, and these are the ones that we want to work on. When we don't have an active ticket going, please reach out to these staff to do this, and please reach out to these staff to do this. They provide the work aids. They record it so that we can keep it, and we've got it at all times. And that way, for new staff coming in, they can sit there and take the trainings just like our staff did in perpetuity.
Love it. Love it. Very good specific examples. Thank you both for that. Now, no relationship is perfect. And in a partner relationship, there are going to be challenges at times and strains at times. Things aren't always going to flow smoothly. So Steve, what do you expect of a partner when things do go bump in the night in that relationship?
So every technology is going to have issues from time to time. And you need to have a collaborative group of individuals that can come together quickly and get an issue resolved. So it's not a question of if you're ever going to have a bump in the road or technical problems. You absolutely will, I guarantee it. But having the ability, again, because you've got good relationships with each other, you know what constitutes a crisis, as Ronda-Rhea was describing, right? She had one yesterday. The team understands that and can jump in and do what's necessary in an expedited fashion to get the issue resolved. It boils back to your question about relationships and how important that is. That if you didn't have that personal relationship, it becomes, more tactical. I submit a ticket, I wait for the support team to respond, right? I've got SLAs in place that say that they have to respond within, 2 hours and 45 minutes, right? Whatever. But with relationships, people know, right? They understand our business. They understand the priorities. When they hear Ronda-Rhea's voice cracking a little bit, they understand that, right? And they know that this is something they got to jump on fast. So that's what you get out of a company like ERPA.
It's not purely transactional. There are relationships. And I think that's exactly what Steve said, is it's not a transactional thing. They see the human in us, and they get to build on that relationship. There's a lot of humor in our meetings too. It's not just all get it done. There's a good group of people.
Love that. Love that. My final question, and Ronda-Rhea, I'll start with you. What is one piece of advice that you would give to someone who's considering a Workday services partner?
Do your homework. Ask for references. There are companies that I would not do a reference for. ERPA, I would. I think you need to really dig down and do your homework, see what the value is, talk to people that have used ERPA, find out what their experiences are, find out why. People that'll watch this podcast. I think it's better than just reading a review online, because those can be, trumped up. But when Steve and I come out here and we talk about our relationship with ERPA, it's not us messing around. We seriously know what the value is that we're getting. We know the relationships we've built, and we've seen the value out of what we've invested in our system and in ERPA.
Steve?
Yeah, I think I would add, I agree. Do your due diligence, right? And part of that due diligence in an ecosystem like Workday is making sure that the potential partner has the skills that you require. As I said, Workday is a very complicated ecosystem. So you need to be sure that there's the appropriate depth on the bench for HR and payroll and finance and procurement, whatever you're deploying within Workday. So be sure that your partner has those capabilities on the bench and can assist you as you require and expect.
Before we end our conversation, I always like to ask, is there anything else that you would like to add that maybe you thought about ahead of time, but then as we progress through the conversation, you forgot to say it? Is there anything, any final touches or final things that you would like to say? And if it's no, then that's fine. If you've covered everything, then that's great.
I think I have spoken my mind here. I'm totally happy with the relationship we have with ERPA, totally satisfied with the resources that I'm working with on a day-to-day basis. I would wholeheartedly endorse ERPA for anybody that's looking for support services in the Workday environment.
I know Steve gets as many emails as I do. There are, as Steve said, a dime a dozen of companies that will tell you they are. You want to make sure that they're a partner. You want to make sure that they know their space. And we do. We repeatedly choose ERPA, and there's a reason that we do. As Steve said, they've got the depth and the breadth of knowledge, and it doesn't matter who you need to pull off the bench. They've got somebody that can give us the service we need. And I think that that's probably one of the biggest things is that we keep coming back to ERPA. We haven't left.
Thanks for listening to The Possibility Perspective. If you'd like to talk to ERPA about what's next in your Workday journey, be sure to visit erpa.com.